Just to see how it would stand up, they tried to make the Corvette roll over. It wouldn't.
Some of these awful cars simply failed to sell due to their terrible design, while others were undeveloped and spiked with serious safety issues. One vehicle would even explode upon impact. If you own one of these bad boys, let us know. Leave your comments below. These are the worst cars of the 1960s and 70s. It should be pretty clear by now that the 1970s clearly weren't the best for Ford Motor Company. The debut of the Maverick back in 1970 only seemed to make matters worse. This awkward sedan was developed as an alternative to pricey European imports. Unlike its premium competitors, the Maverick lacked any kind of quality or high performance. Even the optional 4.9-liter V8 was incredibly underpowered. The model was discontinued merely 7 years after its debut.
Introducing the AMC Pacer, the first wide small car.
The AMC Pacer. The Pacer is perhaps one of the quirkiest American vehicles of all time. While this compact car has accumulated a bit of a cult following in recent years, it wasn't exactly the best car of the 1970s. In fact, many considered it to be one of the ugliest vehicles ever produced. The Pacer was not exactly off to a great start, though its awful reputation has changed dramatically. Pacers quickly disappeared from the streets and became a rare sight. Today, this quirky vehicle has become sought after by collectors. Don't expect good gas mileage, though.
How does it feel like a Mustang II?
The Ford Mustang II. Even the biggest die-hard fans of the Ford Mustang can agree that the second generation was a total miss. The redesigned pony car was nothing like its legendary predecessor. It was neither fast nor exceptional in terms of design. The questionable styling and utter lack of performance were only a small part of the problem. Unlike the original pony car, the second generation was actually based on another vehicle. In fact, it was built on the frame of the Pinto. It even shared the same power plant.
The Folster family introduces Chevy's new little car, Vega. Actually, Vega is a family in itself.
Ah, the Chevy Vega. Believe it or not, the Chevy Vega was actually an absolute hit at first. I should know, our uncle bought 2 of them. This subcompact went on sale back in 1971. General Motors offered the Vega in all kinds of body styles and a flat 4 beneath the hood. The Chevy Vega was even named Motor Trend's 1971 Car of the Year, and it all went downhill from there. A few months after the debut of the vehicle, it became apparent that the Vega was nowhere near as good as everyone thought. It suffered from a whole bunch of mechanical and reliability issues and was extremely prone to rust. The model was eventually discontinued after 1977. Here's something you really never hear much about. It's the Dodge Omni. Clearly, the American auto industry changed quite rapidly after the 1973 fuel crisis. Buyers no longer wanted massive land yachts powered by enormous V8 engines. The Omni was developed by Chrysler to satisfy the needs of the post-oil crisis buyers. The vehicle went on sale back in 1977. Sadly, the Omni wasn't exactly ideal. Oh, and don't forget the awful handling, weak brakes, and a lot of other flaws. Despite all of its issues, Dodge managed to sell over 3 million units of the Omni. Enjoying the list so far? Agree? Not agree? Leave us your comments below. We want to know.
I know my own needs. And what I need from an automobile, I know I get from this new Cordoba.
The Chrysler Cordoba. Following the 1973 fuel crisis, buyers across the U.S. flocked to small, fuel-efficient cars, rather than enormous land yachts powered by gas-guzzling V8 motors. Most American automakers were busy developing cars to satisfy the new needs of car buyers. Chrysler clearly missed the memo. The Cordoba was released for the 1975 model year. In reality, the Cordoba was the polar opposite of what buyers wanted at the time. The Cordoba was a massive coupe powered by a 318 cubic inch V8 motor, with the option to upgrade to a 360 cubic inch or even a 400 cubic inch power plant.
Chevy Chevette, it'll drive you happy. Chevy Chevette, it'll drive you happy.
The Chevy Chevette. General Motors unveiled this weird compact shortly after the debut of the AMC Pacer. A quick peek at the Chevette is enough to understand that the oil crisis clearly had a negative impact on the car world. The price tag of the Chevette was low, and that reflected in the build quality of the car. The interior would fall apart even before leaving the assembly line. The performance of the Chevette was equally pathetic. This car needs almost 20 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour.
If you're like most people who are interested in the Corvair, you want to know what it can do in action, out on the road. You want proof that the Corvair can deliver the goods, give you more.
The Chevrolet Corvair. Don't let the spectacular exterior design fool you. While the Chevy Corvair did look like a proper cruiser from the 1960s, it has gone down in history as one of the worst American automobiles of that decade. This was primarily because of its weird engine layout. In fact, the Corvair quickly became infamous for its awful handling and performance. Next up, the Mercury Bobcat. Wait a minute, doesn't the Bobcat look a little familiar? Well, that's probably because this ugly subcompact is simply a rebadged Ford Pinto. Ford Motor Company attempted to save the reputation of the Pinto. Instead of fixing some of the vehicle's worst issues, the automaker decided to rebadge it and call it a day. The Pinto in disguise hit the market in 1974. Both the Bobcat as well as the Pinto were discontinued in 1980.
Few cars are designed with such uniqueness as the '79 Versailles.
The Lincoln Versailles. The Versailles was easily one of the biggest flops in the history of Ford Motor Company. The American manufacturer developed a gas-guzzling luxury sedan that hit the market shortly after the oil crisis. The timing simply could not have been worse. Despite the fancy name, the Versailles was nothing more than a slightly redesigned Ford Granada. The automaker's pathetic attempt at hiding the roots of this seemingly luxurious vehicle failed right at its debut. There was no explanation for the ridiculous price tag of the Versailles, which was nearly 3 times higher than the regular Granada. Next up, the AMC Gremlin. AMC released the Gremlin, a subcompact that doubled as an absolute eyesore just a few years before the debut of the infamous Pacer. The Gremlin was actually a shortened version of the Hornet, another automobile produced by AMC.
Introducing a mid-size car in the Thunderbird tradition, the new 1975 Ford Elite.
And next is the Gran Torino Elite. Back in 1974, Ford Motor Company attempted to enter the personal luxury car market. The oil crisis had just happened, and the budgets to develop new vehicles were dramatically cut down. Instead of developing a brand new model from the ground up, the American manufacturer took the easy way. Despite the new name, the Ford Gran Torino Elite was nothing more than a redesigned Mercury Cougar. The vast majority of components used to build it were identical. Hence, the Gran Torino Elite shared the same issues as the Cougar. Last on the list is the AMC Hornet. AMC unveiled the Hornet for the 1970 model year, shortly before the debut of its shortened sibling, the Gremlin. The Hornet was essentially set up for failure, even during its development. It took the automaker 3 years and over 1 million man-hours, as well as $40 million to develop the vehicle. The final product was rather underwhelming, to say the least. While the Hornet wasn't as bad as the Ford Maverick, it was still far from a good vehicle. What's more, AMC promised to repair anything wrong with the car except for its tires. AMC went out of business around 15 years later. Hey, there you have it, the worst cars of the 60s and 70s. Let us know what the worst car of the 60s and 70s that you think should have made it to our list. Let us know. Hey, thanks to all of our subscribers for helping the Boca Brothers YouTube channel grow. It's because of you guys that are, we can continue making these videos. Danny and I, we both have full-time jobs, but we love doing this. If you are not a subscriber and supporting us and helping us out, it's easy to do. It's free. Just hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for future notifications. Simple. This is Michael J. with the Boker Brothers YouTube channel. We'll see you again next weekend.